Please have a look at this position, folks. White has an extra pawn right now, and they were hitting the pawn on g5. Black just pushed g4, and they escaped this attack by the bishop. White to play. What should white play? Many beginners and many intermediate players blunder in this exact position. Why? Because they misinterpret the opponent's last move. They interpret this move solely as a defensive move. This pawn was under fire, that's why they pushed g4. In those moments, they don't ask themselves the most important question in chess, namely, what would they play if I don't make a move right now? After your opponent makes a move, you must ask yourself this question. Otherwise, you can lose any chess position. White to play, folks. The question is this: what would black play if it's their turn again? What is changed in the position? Can you see it? Can you see, for example, how that pawn is limiting your king on g2? Can you see this knight and rook combo? And can you see the pawn on f2 is pinned right now? Yes, folks, please tell me the exact threat you're facing right now. Yeah, if you don't make a move, black will go knight e3 check, forcing king g1 or king h1, and then rook e1 leads to checkmate. Please visualize it, folks. It's mate in 2 that's waiting for you. If you don't make a move right now with white, then you lose in 2 moves by force. It's all because of the opponent's last move, g4, which is choking your king, which is limiting the mobility of your king. In the actual game, unfortunately, white didn't see the threat. They played rook c7, looks like a move that I'm attacking the pawn, looks like a good move, and then came knight e3 check. Notice how the knight is also stopping king f1 ideas, king g1, rook e1, the game is over. That's why chess is the most cruel sport in the world. You can make all the best moves in your life, and you slip in this process for a single move, you don't see the opponent's threat for a single move, then you lose that position. Our floor must be so high to stop those blunders. To tackle this problem, I created an entire course that is titled My Opponent's Last Move, Identifying Threats, Mistakes, and Misconceptions. In this video, I will show you exactly why those mistakes take place, psychological moments like this especially we'll be talking about. The opponent's last move looks like a defensive move or an escaping move or a retreat. In those moments, most beginners and intermediate players miss this step. They simply slip in this most important chess process of identifying the tactical threats behind the opponent's last move. Once you see the threat, guys, you tell me why there's so many ways to get a completely winning position here. Yeah, for example, king f1 is a beautiful move. Not only stopping knight e3 check, but also attacking the rook on e2. The rook has to move, and then you can do whatever in this position. You can even play rook g7 check followed by rook g4. Rook g7 check is also a good move, but here you cannot take on g4. Why? Why? Because knight e3 check anyhow. King f3. Looks like I'm counterattacking your rook. The problem is after knight takes g4, the bishop is also hanging, and black gains an extra piece in this position. Okay? But after g4, there's also one more move to stop knight e3 check, and that's the move bishop d4, right? Once you identify the exact threat you're facing, then moves become easy to find for us. Bishop d4, white is completely winning in its position, not to mention those ideas, the game is completely over. If they take on b2, folks, then they are creating this alignment on the second rank. The knight is loose, the rook is loose, thus rook a2 is a beautiful move to exploit the pin, and white wins in this position. Okay, so after g4, king f1 is beautiful, bishop d4 is beautiful, and even rook g7 check, king f8, king f1 is beautiful. In all these lines, white is simply winning. In my blunder check course, do you remember, guys, I talk about the clamp checklist. Clamp stands for checks, loose pieces, alignments, mobility restrictions, and pass pawns. These are the backbones of chess tactics, and chess tactics emerge from these letters. And in this video, I'll also show you clamp one by one. This was C, right? You're missing the opponent's check as a result of their last move. They made a move g4, and if you don't make a move right now, they will do this check to you. It turns out to be a devastating check you must react against. Okay? Slowly, I will also give you other letters. One more interesting position connecting to letter L. White in this position just moved knight c4 and attacked the black queen, and the black queen retreated or just escaped to e6 in this position, right? It looks like innocent move. It looks like a male reactionary move. It looks like a move that doesn't threaten anything. But I challenge you right now, guys. Please ask yourself this fundamental question of what would black play if I don't make a move right now? White currently is an extra pawn. If white plays carefully, they will claim a winning advantage. But care is required. Queen e6, guys. Queen e6, what's the question? Do I have a loose piece in the position? Okay? The queen is attacking the knight on e5. The knight on e5 is attacked once, guarded only once in this position. 1 versus 1 makes this piece a loose piece. A loose piece in chess has equal number of attackers and defenders. The knight on e5 is loose. Is there a way for black to exploit that? Yeah? Then you see, remove the guard idea by black. Very simple, logical. Since this knight is only guarded by this guy on c4, black can simply push b5, hit the knight, and thus, once the knight moves, they are gaining this guy on e5. Namely, after queen e6, white is facing an enormous tactical threat that you must address. Please tell me a couple of good moves for white. Again, once we identify the threat, it's easy to find all the good moves for white. For example, knight f3 is a very safe move. The knight becomes a protected piece. White has an extra pawn. Yes, this knight is also a loose piece right now. Attacked once, guarded once, but there is no way for black to remove the guard of d3. There is no way for black to forcefully chase the bishop from its defensive function in this position. Right? Maybe you can even play knight d4, attack the queen, and so on and so on. Everything is beautiful for us. Maybe even c3, follow it up with knight f3. That's also fine. Maybe here we can play b4, for example, right? And then maybe knight f3. There are different ways for us to play this position, but ultimately it boils down to you seeing the knight on a5 as a loose piece, and you perceive the threat of the remove the guard tactic in this position. Just to consolidate this point, guys, this was a homework question I gave you at some point. Black attacked the white queen by knight e4, and the queen simply escaped this attack by going to f3. Again, it's black to move. Ask yourself, please, what would white play if you don't make a move right now? Yeah? Start from loose pieces. Which piece is loose? The knight on e4 became a loose piece because the queen is now hitting the knight, and the knight is already only guarded by the bishop on f5. So 1 versus 1 makes that knight a loose knight. Okay? Can white exploit this? Please find a good tactic for white to maybe remove the guard of the knight on e4. And you're a great player, folks, if you understood that g4 is their next move. They will repel the bishop on f5. Bishop g6 is the only way for the bishop to guard the knight. But then, of course, they will simply take your bishop and then take on e4. White is winning a piece. Please visualize. If black doesn't make a move right now, in the actual game, they sort of ignore the threat and they went c5. And then came the move g4. Removing the guard trick. Bishop g6. Simply remove the guard. Knight, queen takes e4. And the game is finished. White is winning with a clear extra knight. Notice, guys, knight e4 looks like a very aggressive move. I'm moving forward my knight. I'm attacking your queen. I'm taking the initiative. And they're only reacting to my moves. They're only passively reacting to my move. I have full control. And people psychologically in those moments, right, this feeling of control kicks in and they simply lower their guard. They don't ask themselves whether the opponent can win a piece on the next turn. Again, it's a direct effect of this escaping move, queen f3. Queen f3 simply creates a loose piece on e4, which black must see. It's black's responsibility to see this. Once you see this, there are many different ways. Maybe you can even be a, let's say, a humble person and retreat the knight on f6. The knight becomes a protected piece in this position. The bishop is loose. It's hit once, guarded only once by the pawn, but there is no way for white to forcefully remove the pawn from its defensive function in this position. Okay? So everything is safe and okay for black in this position. Now I will show you a more peculiar example, which I also keep witnessing in beginners, intermediate players games. In this position, the white player played the move bishop c4. Looks like a beautiful move, creating a checkmate in one threat. And black, of course, played e6. Okay? They seem to be only reacting against your beautiful ideas. They are only defending the pawn on f7, correct? Many beginners don't perceive the threats behind such innocent-looking moves. But the question is the same. What would black play if white doesn't make a move right now? You tell me. You stop the video, go deeper, ask for all kind of exploitations for black potentially to take advantage of one big problem in white's position. There is one tactical problem in this position that black can exploit on the next turn. Yes, folks. Now we are talking about alignments, namely knight fork alignments. Can you see? The queen and the bishop are now inviting a potential knight jump to a5. Those pieces are on the same color as the enemy knight, and they are exposed to potential knight forks in this position. Indeed, after bishop c4, it was white who was setting up for this potential knight fork. But if black plays knight a5 directly, that will be a terrible blunder because they are missing the opponent's check. As a result of their last move, the game will be over. But of course, after bishop c4 and e6, suddenly that becomes a real idea for black. And white, of course, did not see this. They simply castle short and then came knight a5 and voila. Can you see? The queen has no way to move while also guarding the bishop on c4. This double attack simply wins material by black. Beautiful, because the queen a4 doesn't work, queen b5 doesn't work, the bishop cannot move while giving a check. Nothing is working for white. The game is simply over. Please notice the peculiarity of this example, because with their last move, white created a beautiful attack on f7, and they simply forced the opponent to make a move like that, which sort of blunts their bishop. So white is very happy. They're making developing move with tempo, right? We keep telling people you should generally make developing moves in the opening with tempo. Thus, white is following opening principles. But, right, they are completely ignoring the recent changes. They are ignoring the drawback of their own move. In my blunder check course, I talk about potential knight fork alignment that you create as a result of your move, right? It was white's own move that created this alignment in the position, and it was white's task in this very moment to see this. By the way, folks, if you in this position go and grab the pawn on b7, then black is still winning. After rook b8, the queen needs to be chased away. Rook b6, tempo on the queen. Queen a4 is more or less the only move, but then comes this alignment, even this alignment, and rook b4 creates double attack on these pieces. Queen a6 is forced, but then comes remove the guard tactic by black. Beautiful knight retreat, attacking the queen, and the queen has no way to guard the loose bishop on c4, and the bishop will turn into a hanging piece once the queen moves from a6, and black is winning by force. This means after e6, white had to be humble enough and maybe make moves like queen d1, retreating moves at least. They keep this beautiful central pawn, and maybe they will claim some similar advantage in this IQP middle game. Now let's move to the M part in our clamp checklist, namely mobility restrictions, namely trappable pieces. Let me show you how it functions in this example. Black in this position played the move bishop h6, activating the terrible bishop, attacking the queen on d2 as well. And the queen simply moved away from our attack on h6. So queen d3 is their last move. Please guys, please tell me whether black is facing a threat right now. What would white play if black doesn't make a move? That's always the key question. Yes, folks. Can you see? As a result of your bishop h6 move, this knight became a potentially trappable piece. The knight is lacking mobility in this position. M in our checklist, clamp checklist. The knight has no squares whatsoever in this position. Yeah, as a result of bishop h6, because that knight could retreat to h6 if you didn't make this move. It's your very move that turns this knight into a potentially trappable piece. And namely, h3 is a devastating threat right now. They will simply play h3 and they will trap your knight. Thus, once you see this, black has some choices. You can even maybe play moves like f5 to give this f6 square for your knight, but there's also counter-attacking solution c5, namely you're attacking the pawn on d4 to be able to create this e5 square for your knight. And if they play h3 anyhow, then there is this counter-attacking move, takes while putting pressure on the knight on c3. If queen takes d4, the knight survives by going to e5. Black is slightly better. And if they take on g4, then you take the knight on c3. Well, white might be only slightly better in this position. Notice, just like in last example, you're making an attacking looking move, but your very move is creating a problem in your camp. Just like in the other example of knight fork alignment, it's your very move that turns this knight into a trappable piece. And it takes a good tactical vision to quickly spot those trappable pieces in chess. Can you see this knight not as a real strength, but a potential weakness in this position, right? They can get easily trapped in the enemy camp if you're not careful in those positions. Indeed, in the actual game, they played knight c6, completely ignoring this trappable knight, and then came h3, and this game is totally finished. Guys, homework is coming. Slightly difficult, but very rewarding. Let me assure you that. White player in this position took the rook on d8, and the queen just recaptured the rook on d8. By the way, the same process happens when the opponent's move is just a recapture. Look at this. Psychologically, it looks like, of course, they play queen d8 because they had to recapture the rook on d8. So many people lower their guard in those moments. They never ask themselves of the fundamental question of what would my opponent play if I don't make a move right now. Start with that huge question, guys. White to play. What will be black's next move if you don't make a move right now? Okay? Give black several choices. Look at the entire picture. Look at potential alignments. Look at pass pawns. Look at potential checks. And try to combine what I taught you in this lesson. If you're not careful, black will end up in newspapers by their amazing combination. Okay? White to play. Please give me a couple of good ideas for white. There are two very good moves that give white a clear advantage. Look at the big picture. This bishop is terribly buried. The rook is shut down from the game. White has a positional advantage if all goes well. But any kind of grandiose strategic ideas can falter if you miss the opponent's threat for a single move. You must be careful. Please go through this checklist, apply clamp, and then tell me two very good looking moves for white. I hope the lessons are clear, folks. I made this video to really help you, including my own students, to automatize this process of always perceiving the tactical threats behind your opponent's last move. Again, regardless of the opponent's last move, it can look like a retreat, escape, or a recapture like this case. The same process must take place. You must ask yourself, what has changed recently, and what would they play if I don't make a move right now? And the clamp checklist will surely help you simplify the process. I made 2 courses to raise your floor in these hugely important fundamental thought processes. First one, my opponent's last move. Second one, preventing blunders in chess. I'll post their link in this video description as well, guys. Please go and study those courses. I heard great feedback from so many, hundreds of students for both courses. They raised their floor, their rating is also improved significantly. And if you like this video, guys, please give me a like and subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with a friend of yours that might benefit from its content. Thank you so much for your support. See you next time. Bye-bye.